Arc Junkies presents Weld Wednesday with AWS. Brought to you by the American Welding Society. And now your host, Jason Becker.
All right, welcome to a very special episode of Weld Wednesdays with AWS. This month, as everybody knows, is National Women's Month. And joining me for this episode, I have Tiffaney Orff, Amy Roosa, and Kelli Royals. Thank you, ladies, for coming out and joining us. I know, within welding, it's not a field that is typically, people don't typically see a lot of women in this field, but there is a slow changing shift, which has been awesome. I got into welding education. I was surprised. The first class that I had one female. And then in the next class, I had one. And then it went on to 3 females, and then 4, and then 5. So more women are, slowly getting into this trade. Now, was that the case when you guys were coming up through the trades? Did you see a lot of females, in your area, in your work area?
I'll start off. That's a big no. Almost 13 years I've been in the welding industry. And I think up until I moved back to California, I hadn't worked with any. I had one woman I actually worked with in Arkansas, and that was 8 years into my career. So I literally, unless I was on social media, I hadn't seen any.
Yeah, I'll chime in. I didn't see very many growing up. I'm only involved in welding because my dad invited me to classes when I was in high school. Never thought I would use it, but ended up being what I fell back on. So once I got into it, I don't remember seeing very many women. I usually was the only girl in the class until I entered a larger shipyard where there was upwards 20,000 employees. Then you saw more, but it was still a handful.
So still a kind of minority.
Absolutely.
And then Amy, what about your experience?
So I'm in safety primarily, but in the 18 years I've been doing this, seeing any woman in the trades, it's scarce, especially welding or even as a safety professional. Seeing another woman in safety, not likely. I've been usually the only female on job sites or in the executive rooms talking about the concerns that are out there.
Now, all 3 of you are advocates for getting women into welding or getting women into the skilled trades. What's your driving force behind that? Do you enjoy this trade enough to, spread the good word about welding to everybody and kind of recruit more and say, hey, we need you?
Sorry, I'll start that because welding's been my life really since I was 18. I really didn't even expect to use it. And so my whole driving passion has been just to share that trade like my dad shared it with me, and primarily with women because women aren't seen in the trade, and I'm a woman and I can do it. So not to say that everybody's going to want to be a welder, but just like I didn't know I was going to do it, now I've done it. I've been very successful at it. I have a reputation for doing a very good job as a welder. So I know that other women could do it, and the other women could find the same satisfaction as I did. And I know it was a place for me to express myself in an artistic style, and that's how I view welding.
Oh, I'll chime in. You know what? Welding is literally the only trade that I've stuck with in over 23 years. I started out in construction and real estate, and welding was the one trade I didn't have under my belt. And I stayed, and I loved it. I felt like it was my niche, I guess. And I feel like there's a place for everybody here, but unfortunately, sometimes you feel very alone, especially going through the years. I don't necessarily feel like a weirdo because I'm very happy with what I do. But it'd be nice to see my friends, my family, and other women just try. They don't know what they don't know. You know what I mean? And that's the reason why I do what I do. Is just so I can give somebody just that gentle introduction, even not so gentle. Hell, I don't care. However, the personality works. Because I have a great time and it's changed. I've done so many different jobs and had so many great experiences with welding. I would just love everybody to have that opportunity.
Now, what was it specifically about welding that kept you in this, this trade? You said you did a bunch of other stuff before that. What was it about welding that kind of kept you here?
I think it was probably my mentor. So originally, my first introduction was for welding was in lowriders, custom suspension. And I just felt so at home and so welcome when I walked into the shop. And I learned everything that I could. I got my hands on every single tool. I loved it. I don't know if it was just a tangible aspect of like working with tools or having a really good teacher. And I say really good, but he just made everything look easy. It was not, but it was nice that I was able to have some type of mentor that I could mesh well with. And I haven't left. That was like literally 13 years ago. I was actually talking to him today, and we're just kind of like, whoa, like we are going over some invoice for a customer. And I was reading back, and it was like 2013. And I was like, holy moly, that was a long time ago. One of the customers that we had. And I don't know. It's just, I think because the evolution of it, the so many different like niche opportunities within welding, it has never been the same from structural to pipe to engineering to automotive to ambassadorship to advocating. It just keeps getting better. And I love it. Like I look forward to every day. Like, what am I going to get my hands into? It's so much fun. And I want everyone to have at least some small portion of that experience.
Right. Yeah. It's a trade that never gets boring. There's always something new. And I tell people, as soon as you think you got something mastered, try another process, try a different industry, try, a different skill set. There's so much.
Someone's going to come right behind you and be way better, and you're going to try to improve upon that.
Yeah,
but it's funny.
That's one thing that I really like.
Different to get into.
Yeah, that's one thing I really like about welding is it's very competitive. As soon as somebody lifts their hood up, like you want to go over there and check out their welds. Like, how are they doing? Like, can I beat them? Can I do better? And I mean, I think that's something that kind of keeps us all into it.
You absolutely know when the welders are in the room because they have that same personality. Even it's funny because I know you're also an instructor. You can get someone in the classroom or in the workshop for a week. As soon as they put that one beautiful bead, they are the gods of the welding universe. Yeah. And you always know, like you could be in a bar and carpenter, union, that's the welder over there. The one probably with the big mouth and the chest puffed out. It's a thing. I have no idea. It so very much vibes with like my personality. I love it.
Yeah, a lot of welders have big personalities. Now, what are some of the challenges that you all have had to face in this industry? Because let's face it, it's not always sunshine and rainbows when we get into it, and especially, being a female in this industry, it's got to be a lot tougher. I've had female students. I've heard a lot of stories. I've got female friends that are in the welding industry. I know it's not easy for y'all, but what are some of the challenges that you typically have to face trying to do this job that you're so passionate about?
I'll take this one. I'm going to say the assumption that I may not know stuff, so I get mansplained or I get white knighted. And I see Tiffaney. And
what's white knighted?
White knighting is when they do the work for you, because they perceive you as being weaker, so they pick up that bucket or they do the equipment. For me, so in safety, I train people. I'm out on the job sites protecting you guys. And I took a confined space course years ago. And part of the confined space course was donning the SCBAs, the air breathing stuff, going in a tunnel, grabbing a 150-pound dummy and dragging it out. And the entire time I'm getting ready to do this, the instructor, and I'm the only female in the class, keeps looking over at me and going, you don't have to do this if you're not comfortable. And I just looked at him and I go, one, I grew up in my dad's tow shop, so I'm a little fearless. And I just was like, I've never had a guy say that before. It was kind of my first encounter. And I'm like, my dad and the guys in his shop would have never said that to me. I just looked at him and I go, I have to do the exact same thing my workers do so I can understand it if I have to go train it. And so I went in, did it, and I actually smashed their course record that they were keeping track of.
Very nice.
So, yeah, but I think for me, it's just that awareness,
What about you, Kelli?
I was thinking about something while she was talking about that. Just it's not always men. I've encountered women that also. I had the same emblem on my hat as a foreman as any other foreman in the shop. And I was asked she asked me, can I speak to the foreman after we were having a conversation about a job? And I said, I am a foreman. I've been a foreman for 2 years. And she was like, oh, okay. And then we we finished our communication, but I just learned that the listeners can't see me, but I look very young for my age, and I get that, but I'm also very small, and I'm a female in a male environment. So yes, the men are automatically like, what is she going to be able to do? I give everyone about 4 weeks, and then they're like, man, you're really good at this, or you're really tough, or we know not to mess with you. But it's everywhere I go, it's the same way. And I know it's a lot because I look very young and I'm smaller, but I know women experience it every time they walk in a room, especially when they're the only woman in the room. So it's a little frustrating. I think everybody by now knows how strong women are, having kids and just everything that we do in our lives and how we handle it. It's just aggravating that we have to go through kind of a resume or this trial period of them figuring out what we're capable of before we get that real respect as a fellow coworker or someone that's hired at the same level as you. Even me moving up from welding into other levels, I'm seeing other ways that women deal with different things throughout manufacturing so that I can now help advocate or figure out how to work through those, because we want women in the welding field. So we need more women in there to make the changes too. The more there, the more that we can talk about it or decide, hey, we have enough women here that we need to make some changes specific to them.
I know in the beginning, when I would change jobs or try to do something else, getting in the door, I actually would tell my students, don't put your name on your resume, put your letter, just put an initial. And I've had people call me, I still have it to this day. Where's the owner of the business here? Or where's your husband? Excuse me? Like, it's just getting into the door. People just assume because you're a woman that you're not capable. I let them know real quick, like that who they're talking to. But, you have to get to a point to actually own that confidence. And it stinks because I think about like younger women or, the youth who are coming up in the industry, how they develop that, because people just look at women and they're just like, you're just a girl. And I will never understand that. And I do know it's that antiquated, like, mindset. But I think like, for those type of things to change, that's part of the catalyst for me to open my own shop again, because I want another woman in power. I own it. I run it. I teach it. I build the cars. I teach the women. I advocate. I tour. You know what I mean? Just so other women can know that it can be done. And I try to just infuse them with a little bit of my confidence so that they don't have to validate themselves every time they walk into whatever, a job, a business, an event, because it is intimidating, but you just have to kind of like own it. How do you get that though? It took 13 years. Maybe not. I think I was kind of born like that, but not everybody is like that. You know what I mean? It's very frustrating. We just had a situation recently with a major welding supply, and I let them know quickly who they were talking to, because I don't feel like I need to validate myself anymore, and I refuse to. I refuse to. I'm just not going to give them our business. It's very frustrating that it still happens.
I'm just wondering, as we're having this conversation, we're talking about the unconscious bias and conscious bias. Did either of you ever have to deal with pay discrepancies being a woman?
Major pay discrepancies. Yeah.
I'll say I was lucky in one of the first employers I had was it's the largest shipbuilding yard in the US. And everything is very equal there. Like me and my ex-husband were together for 10 years, and when him and I graduated from school, we had the same pay. He was a ship fitter and I was a welder. But even as we progressed to foreman and so forth, we were always at the same pay. I never was making less than him. So I was lucky in that aspect. But now, because I'm not in that umbrella of that business, I've gone to smaller companies. I'm having to be more vigilant to find out what is everyone around me making, because and I've just recently found out I think I am making a lot less than what I should be. But it's just one of those things that I'm learning.
That's the hard part too, because nobody wants to share their salary. Like even guys, they don't tell each other what they make for the most part. So I mean, as a female, you're like, are they paying me what I'm worth? Am I on equal footing as like the rest of my coworkers that are in the shop, or the same person, that's doing this type of work? Are we all on the same scale? That's one benefit that I see to like a lot of union shops is there's tiers. once you hit journeyman level, you get that journeyman scale. Like, it's across the board. It doesn't matter, male, female, or whatever. It's completely equal. But I know, like, out in industry, there's a significant pay gap sometimes, just based off the fact that you're a woman, and it's gotta suck that every time that you go into a new shop or a new environment, you've got to prove yourself. Whereas, like, if a guy walks in there, they're going to give him benefit of the doubt. They read the resume. Okay, yeah, you're good. You're qualified. Do the weld test. Boom. Okay, yeah, like, you're working here now. Go cut up material. Whereas, you've probably got a lot of, I would say, supervisors, managers, and then, like, the staff in general just kind of watching over your shoulder, like, making sure you're capable of doing the work and producing it and going behind and double checking all your work to make sure, well, does she really know how to read a tape measure? But I think, I think things are slowly starting to improve, because I've got a lot of good feedback from a lot of my female students that, they're out there, they're doing the work, and they're moving up in the industry rather quick. And I think it's great, because women, contrary to popular belief, and I've said it a bunch of times on my show, women tend to make better welders than guys. Just because attention to detail, the ability to follow instructions.
Well, we have to work harder. That's the thing. Is
true.
We don't have the luxury of being born with the entitlement of being a man. And I'm not saying that in a negative way, but when we come in, we have to be faster. We have to be smarter. We have to be stronger. We have to do it, twice as good, because we already know the scrutiny that's going to be placed on us as soon as you know that we're a woman in the industry. That's part of the reason we want it actually more. Because we've never really had a table or a place at the table. And now it's cool because more women are making those tables. And that's where I'm at. You know what I mean? I just don't want to even have to validate myself anymore. I don't even have to worry about, like, the different pay. I'm going to let you know you're going to get paid your worth. You know what I mean? Like, it's not I'm ready for the industry to change. I wish it would be quicker. And sometimes I'm not very hopeful in it. And then I hear some, like, like your students, like, they're doing better in the industry. I love hearing that. But that's just, you're in Florida, correct?
Yep.
See, I don't know. We talk to people all over the country, all over the world. And sometimes I'm just like, is it ever going to change? I don't know. It's frustrating.
I'll chime in just because I recently spoke in Puerto Rico at the American Welding Society and WEMCO annual conference. And I've been around higher end of the companies for the small companies I work for, but not everyone is very welding specific. And so I have communication with them, but it's just not necessarily in the welding world. It is including welding because we weld at our job, but it's not the same. And I got to be around a group of people that are all like VPs and CEOs and presidents of these companies that are all involved in our welding throughout the U.S. And they were amazing. I was very pleased with the communication and the conversations and what they were listening to and taking in and understanding. And I feel like I see change in that generation where I worked in a company that generation was not fully embracing the newer generations coming through. And I'm speaking for male and female because I've been an advocate for the new generations coming into welding, no matter what they were, because I was a craft instructor and foreman, and people were looking up to me as a mentor. And so a lot of men came to me with lots of different concerns about how to handle things. So I struggled with that at that company. When I left, I was really glad to see other companies be more of advocates and more helpful with everyone, no matter what your background or what you look like. I don't say that they discriminate against me because I'm a female, but there was definitely a gap there in them mentoring us and us becoming what we could for them because we didn't have that many years of experience as they did. And so being around this other group of people recently really gave me a high hope for the direction we're headed for. I see them being more accepting of, hey, this generation of people coming behind us is just different. So how do we meet them where they're at? Because we need them.
Yeah, I think they're experiencing the same thing, not just male and female, but like an entirely new generation moving in. Like, how do we handle these people? Because they think different, they work different, they talk different, they're incentivized differently. Like, how do we And I have noticed that, well, working with companies and higher ups and stuff, they're like, how do we attract and retain this younger generation? We absolutely need them because we're losing people. We're leaking like a sieve when it comes to, employees. Like, we got to bring people in. How do we keep them here? How do we get them motivated? How do we, pry the best out of them? How do we form them and mold them into like awesome employees? And it's going to be interesting to see that shift because like right now, everybody's, that generation is slowly phasing out and this other generation is coming in like super quick. So it's very easy that I've noticed, over the past few years that I've been teaching for, somebody to come out of a welding program and go in there and hit the ground running and move up into management and supervisory positions within like 6, 8, 10 months.
But now you have the gap and they moved up and now you're missing a welder. And
Right.
if you look at the trends right now, by 2030, I think the statistic is we're going to be 1 million short in construction and over 600,000 in manufacturing because people are retiring. And that retention piece is going to be the most valuable thing. And what we're finding with the newer generations is they really want to feel valued in the work that they do. And I think there's a little bit, and I kind of wonder this, and I'm sure somebody will listen to this and message me on LinkedIn or something. I think some of the social media platforms that we see, and we see these influencers' lifestyles, and they make it look more meaningful than picking up that torch. You can have a very meaningful life picking up that torch. My father had a very meaningful life running a tow shop and then being a trucker. I love what I do and safety. So it's, I think, getting a little bit of that mind shift that you could be a welder for 30 years or 40 years and really truly love it. And there's a vast amount of things you can do with welding. You guys have already stated it, but I don't know if it's completely out there because, again, social media kind of hides it and makes it look like, oh, do you really want to be in manufacturing or construction like your grandpa? Look what it did to him back then. It's a little bit of a misconception, I believe.
Yeah, we work a little bit different. Safety standards are a lot higher. I mean, ergonomics are, a big factor now. So I had that conversation with a lot of parents coming into the program. They're like, oh, yeah, like I know so-and-so, and they welded for 20 years and now they're blind. And I was like, man, that's weird because I've been at this for 25 and I just got my vision checked and I got 20/20. But I'm also using the appropriate PPE and I'm setting my, I'm using the current or the recommended, shade for the process and the amount of amperage that I'm working with. So, I mean, there's a lot more education now. It's not like just get in there and get the job done. Like here's, a pair of dark safety glasses, crawl in the tube and weld it from the inside. Gone are the days
and
that we have to work like that. Yeah, exactly.
with no respirator on and no air sampling done. Like I'm on the other end trying to make it better for the welders by doing all that. And yeah, like you said, I think, 50 years ago, I've had this conversation with my grandpa. The stuff he did, he's like, well, why do you do that now? I didn't do it back then. And I'm like, yeah, take a deep breath for me, buddy.
Yeah.
Let me hear that.
But yeah, I think that, that's why manufacturing, construction, welding, like I'm more partial to welding, obviously, but like all these different trades, I think they're great for this generation because like you said, they want to be valued. They want to make sure that their work has meaning. What other occupation can you get into where you're like proud of everything that you do? I'm sure you all do the same thing, like you got your family or friends around, you're like, hey, I built that. I made that. You see these parts coming out, on this car or this truck, like I fabricated those. Like I led the charge on, putting that building up. Like I supervised that or, I oversaw the safety aspects on this massive job site. You're valued. Like your work has meaning. And that's why welders are so passionate about what they do. We keep the world spinning, like we're welding the trucks and the cars and, the trains and the ships and like everything, we're sending people up to up to space and rockets and like our work has meaning. It's tangible. You can see it.
100%.
Well, did you know also, if you actually think about it, there's a statistic. In one day, you touch about 3,000 things that has been welded on, even if it's robotic. The base for your vehicles, the clothing, that the manufacturing plant that produced the clothing, you know what I mean? People don't think about these things. Like welders made that and people don't get that. It's a very satisfying job. I don't know. I guess we're very partial to it. You know what I mean? We're biased, but that's the thing that's why we advocate for it because it's so much fun and there's so many different things that you can get your hands on. I I don't even know. I do so many dang processes in one day and so many different jobs. Like it's so much fun. It never gets boring. You know what I mean? Like today I'm making a metal robot and then I'm working on a Dodge subline and then I'm getting ready for a family welding event. Like, come on, that is not boring. It's just always fun for me.
No,
I mean, the lifestyle obviously is not always fun. Business and entrepreneur, it's a pain in the butt,
yeah, that part's
but it's worth
hard
it.
sometimes. Yeah, it's definitely worth it.
Yeah. Well, it's not very glamorous,
Yeah.
but I love, and if I didn't love welding so much, I certainly wouldn't want to do it. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't want to advocate and have everybody at least try their hand at it, even if it was just for some type of novice situation. Clearly, I want someone to own the next shop, but I definitely think it's a very satisfying trade.
Now, with all three of you mentoring and advocating for, to get more women into the skilled trades, like what's some of the key advice that you're giving to these young ladies that are looking up to you to, they're possibly considering getting into construction or, welding or fabrication or entrepreneurship? What are some of the things you're telling them to kind of make their transition into this industry a little bit easier?
Have a good sarcasm skill base built up. No, I'm joking.
No, you're not joking.
Why not?
No, you know what? You have to have a very thick skin and don't take everything personally because honestly, you're going to be dealing with, like, for instance, if you're a 20-year-old coming into this industry and you're dealing with some 50, 60-year-old who has an antiquated idea of what a woman should be in this world, just don't take it personally. He's not going to change. And just go to the next door, go to the next job. Do not quit. If you absolutely love it, you think this is for you, don't quit. It's funny because I was just talking to a young lady that I had recently interviewed, and she's 25 and she was already frustrated. I think she's just 6 months out of welding school. And she's like, she said something about one of the girls who had mentioned she was tired after 10 years. She was like, 10 years? I'm frustrated 6 months out of school. And I was like, what? Like, then you don't love it enough. You know what I mean? Like, because it's not going to get any easier. You're going to have to increase your skill set. You're going to take on businesses or you're going to have more responsibility. You got to have a really thick skin in this industry.
No, for sure.
100%.
I think that's male or female. You've got to have thick skin and you've got to have a good sense of humor because a lot
Sure.
of, it's not always fun.
Sure.
A lot of times, like what we do, it sucks. And the only way to get through it is humor. And it's usually by, busting each other's chops.
Or throw your hood. Okay. Oh. It's funny is what were you going to say?
I was just saying, everyone always asks the question, like, what is it like being the only girl? And all those questions like that. And I always say I'm the worst person to ask that to because I grew up in between my brothers. And so I kind of feel like they groomed me for this. I've already, I got picked on all my life growing up by my brothers on either side of me. And we're always challenging each other and competitive. And so I think that kind of already prepared me for all the guys that I work around. And it really feels like working around a bunch of, my brothers, honestly, especially the ones that take you under their wing and they look out for you and so forth. So I think I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the atmosphere a lot.
Now, Kelli, you also wrote a book about welding, right? You wrote a children's book about welding?
I did. The book is called Willow Discovers Welding. It's about a little girl that asks her mom about her job and then asks some questions about it. It breaks it down. It's for children on their reading level, like 4 to 7. And I did that because my kids were bringing home books when they were learning how to read, and they'd have a book for a whole week. And it'd be like Brown Bear, Brown Bear. And they'd have it memorized by the end of the week, but what did that teach them? Absolutely nothing. So what it is good for is their brain is developing, they're learning, and putting it in front of them when they're younger, a trade or manufacturing in front of them, just gives them the opportunity to know about it and then build on that and understand it. And so what I've envisioned is this being a series. Willow's going to discover many things. Willow Discovers Shipbuilding is being illustrated right now. And I intend on visiting manufacturers and having them sponsor books after their company or their trades, and then they'll have books in their area that they can donate to local schools local libraries to create their own talent pool within their area. So I wanted to do big things, but Willow Discovers Welding is the first one yet.
No, that's really cool.
I love it. I just bought 2, by the way.
I'm gonna go buy 2. I need to get that
Yeah.
on my page and share that to the women in my
Yeah.
groups.
When did that come out?
March of 2020, so right when COVID hit, and I started like working on a doll to go with it. I had some made. It's been a really rough, obviously, for everyone, 2 years. So a lot of things are not totally complete like I want, but I'm now working on them to move them forward, and I see a lot of really good things happening. I do have some journals on Amazon that are for welders, so they can write their daily notes in there. It has stuff about their weld joints, the parameters they're using, doing their heat input calculations, just a lot of things that I know as a welder we had to keep up with on the job. So I started notebooks. There's only 3 up there, but I'm working on more journals geared toward women and for women welders on the job.
Oh, very cool.
Oh, I love that.
Now, Amy, tell me a little bit about what you do with Safety Rack, because I know that's a huge thing in this industry.
Yeah. So about 5 years ago, I co-founded the Midwest Women in Safety Conference. It was actually around the time I was working for Airgas. So I was going out, seeing all these great people. And the first year of the conference came around, and I had about 60 women in a room, and conversation of where is our PPE came up. And so I just started reaching out to the manufacturers, asking a lot of questions, slightly being annoying to some of them. And over the course of a few years, I just kind of became known as the person you go to if you need to find something, if you're a woman. And finally, last year around this time, I was talking to Dave Rosenberg with Utility Pro, and he's like, you know all this stuff, but there's nowhere for women to find it. And so the Safety Rack was born. And part of the goal, which is all the stuff behind me, is I get the product in and I test it. I am getting welding stuff in, ladies, that I need tested, so we should talk later. And I don't test it over days or weeks. I test it over a period of months. I take it out on the job sites with me into the manufacturing facilities. I see how it wears on me, how it moves on me, how it handles in the wash. And then I post some stuff on the Safety Rack Instagram page. And then the official review is on the YouTube page, where kind of very short but sweet information about the product. I show it on me. I talk about the brand, and if it's inclusive sizing, which is part of my goal, is to highlight the brands that go from triple small to size 32 pants, for women. And I just been trying to get the information out there. And especially over like the last 4 years, the amount of clothing that's about to come out is just so overwhelming to see. But I'm so glad we're seeing it, because while we have 6% of women in welding, it's going to probably leap here soon, especially with the shortage coming up and the need for more welding workers out there. You guys are seeing it in the classroom. So when they're ready to hit the ground running, the other goal that I'm trying to do is get the employers to be one step ahead of them when they hire them. They know where the products are. They already know the sizes needed. So on day one, when she gets on the job site, she's protected, not day 5 or day 10.
Yeah, that was the hard part. We had, like I said, we had one class. It was like 4 or 5 females in there between the night and the day class. And they were all very petite. So trying to find welding jackets that would fit them that, weren't down to their knees. And I know that Lincoln has like the Jesse Combs kit, but it's not like those very, very small sizes are super difficult to find, So, I mean, they kind of had like baggy jackets. I know Stephanie Hoffman just released like her line of welding jackets for females. And I think Blue Demon, we ended up getting the extra small kids gloves for these girls, just because like that's what their hands would fit in. But like they're only MIG gloves, so we get into flux core welding, or you get into something that's a little bit hotter, and you need more protection. And then so you give them the gloves that the smallest gloves you can find that fit the least worst, just to provide that protection. And now they don't have the dexterity. They can't hold the torch correctly. They can't feed the filler metal correctly. So it's like, what are some of the companies that are like leading the charge on this to where welders right now can go and get some of this gear?
you're seeing a lot of female women in the industry just throw up their hands and go make the stuff. Juno Jones, Xena, Dovetail, Cover Gals out of Canada. Internationally, I can think of a few brands too. There are a lot of manufacturers leading the charge, but it's getting them to understand where the gap is. And that's where I come in, where I work with them and I try to highlight the issue and I try to be more vocal. And because this conversation on my channels is growing, these manufacturers are also on my channels listening to the conversations and then coming back. So I'm hoping that in the next 5 years, we see a bigger change. And one of those will be probably in the next 5 to 10 years. I know that sounds a long time. We're going to see changes, I hope, with NIOSH and OSHA, where we have the regulations change. Now, it's already in the OSHA standard that it has to be properly fitted PPE. Employers need to actually think about that, because from a safety aspect, if somebody takes off their gloves or they get a different pair of gloves to protect them because they're ill-fitting and they don't have the dexterity to grip, well, that's ill-fitting, I can't say it. Ill-fitting PPE. And it's not protecting them. And so the other side to this is employers need to do their homework. They need to ask, they need to listen, and they need to let the females be heard. And then they need to go to their distributor and say, like for like, whatever the men get, you need to go source through a manufacturer for the female brands. And if you can't do it, then we're going to go find the mom and pop shops and we're going to buy direct from her, period.
Yeah.
And they lose business.
Can we just mention one thing though? Hold on. But yes, I'm in a welding shop all day, every day, right? And I need my arms covered and my body covered. So instead, I wear Dickies Carhartts over my Dickies with the sweatshirt. So it's like an experience just to go to the restroom. I can't wear overalls in my shop. It's just not going to happen, because then I got to put an FR jacket on and then probably a sweatshirt because I'm a big baby with the cold. But can we just get a one piece with a butt flap? That's all I ask for. And I'm tall. I'm 5'9", so maybe something that doesn't look like I should be on a 6'3" man. That would be nice.
I will send that information back to several vendors.
I'll send you the video. I'm following you on LinkedIn. I showed it because I have the FR one pieces from Carhartt and Dickies, and like the crotch is like at my knees, and the all the things that are located, my zippers and everything. I'm like, this is just inappropriate where all the placings are. It's just not right.
I want to actually Google something, and we're doing this, so I will Google it later and get it to you. You got me thinking, because it is relevant to a lot of women out there. So
it is.
Now, Tiffaney, tell me a little bit about your work with Welding Women Syndicate. What's that about?
Well, okay, so originally we were an online platform that advocated and educated and celebrated women in the welding industry, because, like I said before, there wasn't anybody. So pre-social media, there really wasn't anybody but Jessie Combs who had actually seen on TV. And I think she was actually standing a car. And that was one of the only women I had seen that was working in a shop and actually doing the work. And then I had to go back because I had my own shop and I was busy. So what I wanted is normalize seeing faces of women doing these different jobs. And then we've just kind of spiraled out of control, And now I have a new shop up in Salinas, California, and it's the official headquarters. And we're teaching, and I say it's centered around women and youth, but it's not exclusive. It's whoever wants the education. But we have a clean bathroom, and we have, no type of bias here. If you want to come learn, come on in. No one's going to hit on you. I have employees here who are women. Basically, it's just to show women that we're not just welders, we're also entrepreneurs, and we're also doing the damn thing. And I'm hoping that I can encourage more women to open up these businesses so that it creates a normalcy within the industry. We've partnered up with a lot of local organizations because, like we're talking about before, they understand that there's a difference in the mentality, but they don't know what to do. So they partner up with, companies like myself, because I guess by, living vicariously through companies like us, they can help change, get a better introduction for women in the industry, which that's what I want. I want more women to come into here, not because we need them, because I enjoy it. You know what I mean? The trend right now is to lean into women because we absolutely need. But I want women to know that you're welcome here, and you're going to be treated like a woman every day, not just once a month. And yeah, that's the Welding Women Syndicate. It's just a group of women doing great things in industry. And it's, we've talked to organizations, we've talked to men, we've talked to companies that actively champion for women, we've talked to schools. It's just people who are normalizing having women in the welding industry.
Now, do you find are some of these people that are taking your class, are they going out into industry or like heading into a trade school? So it sounds like what you're doing is kind of like an introductory to just kind of break down that barrier to say, hey, you can learn this skill and you can be very successful. You can set up your own shop. You can be an entrepreneur, or you can get out in industry. Are you seeing a lot of them actually pursue this as a career?
The weirdest thing out here is there's a lot of businesses that are automotive and there's a lot of businesses that are agricultural. And I've had the weirdest mix here. So I have one of my current students, she has her own fabrication business. She has motorcycles, and what she wants to do is start restoration. So she already has a business, but she wants more. She wants to learn how to weld up, a rust bowl. She wants to know how to fabricate a frame. She wants to do these things just to enhance her skill set. So she's already a businesswoman, which is fantastic. And then I've had like companies bring me their young ladies who they don't know how to train them, which is so weird. So like I've seen a lot of people who are already in the industry who just need maybe just a little boost in confidence and maybe to polish up their skill set. And then I've had people like I have a family coming this weekend and it's just a family welding event. They just want to have some quality time. There's not like one thing I do here. Like we just haven't come down to just like one standard curriculum. I've looked all across the board with teaching and doing things here. Eventually I might calm down, but I like it. Fun. I don't even care if somebody has some type of welding issue. Come on down. We have a local welding supply. We teach their employees because they don't, they're at the desk and this is their job, but they don't necessarily know anything about welding. Well, come on in. I'll show you what you should know when talking to a customer to get that sale, or so you have a little bit more feasible knowledge on what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's definitely a benefit for a salesperson to have, be familiar with the products and understand what the customer needs and be able to recommend stuff.
Oh, come on. How many times have you walked into a business and they don't know what the hell they're talking about?
Yeah.
If they can't look through the screen and get the answers, you're like, hold on, let me take that screen for you. I'll do it. It's frustrating. Yeah. So companies are recognizing that. It's so weird out here. I haven't, my whole intention was just to have like a school, but it's just so much bigger than that now. Like it's just a need, if it's just knowledge or if it's just mentorship or, creating some type of different mentality with the industry. It's very, that's why I keep saying it's so cool because it's not just like I'm just teaching. I got this cohort. It's always freaking different.
It's just like the welding industry. Everything it changes. I mean, that's one thing that's always kept me here is it's something different every day. It's new problems. It's new challenges. And like, how do I overcome these challenges and problems? And, it's every day's a win. Well, not every day, but I mean, like the next day, if I didn't get my win today, I'm getting it tomorrow because I'm going to go home and I'm going to think about it all night. And when I come back, I'm going to have a solution. It eats at you.
Most people that are welders are like that mentality. I don't see too many like lukewarm people. Oh yeah, I weld. It's either you are all in or you just don't.
Yeah.
Like it's not like it's because there's such a diversity in this industry. You know what I mean? This like welding creates a huge passion within people. I think that's why they have those big personalities. You know what I mean? They understand it. It's cathartic. It pays well. You can travel, you could educate the world, all these big grand things that can happen within welding. That's why it's so exciting.
Yeah. So ladies, what's one piece of advice you would give to maybe a female that's listening to this episode, getting ready to get into this industry? What's, some sort of advice you would kind of give them to fast track them into this industry?
Don't overthink that you're underqualified. So statistically speaking, men will apply for a job when they only meet, I think the statistics like 64% of the job requirements. Women have to meet like 90%. Just go for it. Take the leap. Trust your gut. And don't let anybody else tell you can't do it. For all the times I've moved in safety and moved up and seen women do it in trades, every woman I talk to has been like, well, my sister or my friend or my spouse will say, no, trust your gut and just make the leap. Because if you don't, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? You're still in the same place you were before. Just do it.
I'll say, because of what I experienced in my area, that college is not always the answer for a lot of things, but it's also not the only answer for training in welding. And if you want to get in, consider an apprenticeship. Lots of people are offering apprenticeship, but it's an amazing way to get experience and training and be paid all at the same time to get this skill that you're going to build on and be able to do so many things with.
I think for the majority of girls or women or ladies, however you want to word it, I always tell them to give yourself some grace, because in the beginning it's easy. And we are so hard on ourselves as women. And I think like after a few classes or a few jobs, people just like to give up. But in this industry, I can almost 100% guarantee, and I hate saying that, but for the most part of most of the people that I've seen come into the industry, they stay. So give yourself some grace, give yourself some time to learn things and ask the questions and get the experience under your belt. And yeah, just like you said before, don't overthink. Just do the darn job, get in there. Yeah. Grace is definitely a necessity.
Well, awesome. I really appreciate y'all taking time out of your day to, come on here and kind of educate, future female welders to get into this trade. Because like we talked about the numbers earlier, we need people. We need people that are truly passionate about this, that want to do it and are capable of doing the work. So there's room for everyone at the table, and you shouldn't be pushed away because of anything. Like if you're passionate about this trade, come on in. We need you. Every sector of this industry needs you, whether it's aerospace, manufacturing, structural steel, pipe welders, everybody, we need you. And, there's room in here for everybody.
Agreed.
So before we get out of here, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you? We'll go ahead and we'll start with you, Tiffaney.
You can find me on weldingwomensyndicate.com, on every social media platform out there under the same name. I'm all over the place.
Under Amy Roosa on LinkedIn, and then under the Safety Rack on Instagram and YouTube.
You can find me on Facebook and LinkedIn under Kelli Royals, and Instagram and TikTok under XO Kelli Nicole.
Once again, thank you all for coming out, and again, happy National Women's Month.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is all we have for this month's edition of Weld Wednesdays with AWS. For more information on the American Welding Society, or to find out how you can become a member or get involved, head on over to aws.org. I hope you all have a great rest of your week, and until next time, make every weld better than your last.